Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to a fantastic webinar today, Market Smarter, Event Strategy and Effective Ambassador Programs, hosted by the City of Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulation. My name is Dale Sky Jones, and I'm the Chancellor of Oaksterdam University, the first and longest running training for the cannabis industry in the world, and I'm excited to be your moderator today. We are here because the Department of Cannabis Regulation has provided the Business Licensing and Compliance Assistance, or BLC program, to assist equity entrepreneurs in the city of Los Angeles with obtaining a commercial cannabis license and operating a successful cannabis business. Please visit cannabis.lacity.gov for more announcements on the ever improving BLC program for things such as live webinars with different subjects and experts, checklists, worksheets, and other management tools that you can download and use. Links for accessing expert consultants in the BLC coaching program. This connects applicants with seasoned cannabis subject matter experts. We're dropping the link in chat now to sign up for these coaching services. Also, you'll find self-directed online education on important topics related to running a successful cannabis business through the BLC's Learning Management System, which is usually referred to as the LMS. As part of the city's social equity program, DCR has launched this BLC LMS portal where you can access recorded webinars, online courses, and those digital resources I mentioned, made especially for the social equity applicants and licensees. I highly recommend that you take this and explore the LMS if you have not done so already. And before we get started, let's take a moment to review some brief housekeeping rules. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and can be viewed after the editing process on DCR's website in the LMS I just mentioned. You will be muted with cameras off for the duration of the webinar. That means that your camera and audio functions will not be available during this session. However, you will be able to see and hear all of the experts. And there's an open chat box where you can interact with one another for networking or comments on the information. Please do use caution when sharing personal information in a public forum and keep your questions focused on today's topic. Please do ask questions about today's topic in the Q&A box. We are gathering and responding to your questions throughout the presentation, and we will have an opportunity to cover your questions during the webinar. You are encouraged to utilize this Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And if you use that Q&A box for questions, everyone will be able to see the answers to your questions. Because if you have this question, it's likely someone else does too. Finally, please note that today's content was not created by the Department of Cannabis Regulation or the City of Los Angeles and is for informational purposes only. This information is subject to change and does not replace or supersede the Los Angeles Municipal Code nor constitute legal advice. If you have specific questions outside of today's topic, please call 213-978-0738 during business hours, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., to speak directly with your DCR representative. Now, it is my esteemed pleasure to introduce you to today's subject matter expert. Mandy Tingler is a business development executive with 13 years of experience in sales and marketing and is currently the chief commercial officer for Silver Leaf Consulting and founder of the Women's Canna Awards. Mandy has served on the board of directors for the National Cannabis Industry Association and has continued to be a voice for women in business, civil rights, and social justice reform. With a BA in psychology and a master's of science in education, Mandy helps cannabis companies tap into their target market's needs and perceptions. She is skilled in business and product development, creating new revenue streams, guerrilla marketing, and large-scale conference and event planning. She is educated on brand marketing in the cannabis industry, including for the Sacramento and Oakland equity programs. Widely considered a brand whisperer, Mandy has successfully launched 20 different award-winning products, including for brands like Conception Nursery, Natura, Kikoko, Profit, and more. Please help me welcome Mandy and take it away. Go ahead and begin your presentation.
Thank you, Dale, for such a wonderful introduction. Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm honored to be here and share some of the knowledge that I've gathered over the years in my career in the cannabis industry and just working with disruptive industry business operators in general. One of the hardest things that we have to do as operators in a disruptive industry is figure out how to speak and communicate with our target customer. And so today I hope to share a little bit of the ins and outs of what's worked for me and what has worked with a number of brands that I've helped successfully launch across the country. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Maybe if the slides want to cooperate for me. There we go. Okay, I'm going to pass by me. Let's talk a little bit today about a couple of the main points that I want you to walk away with. Number one is our topic of brand ambassadors. Having a brand ambassador team out in the world on behalf of your company is absolutely essential, especially in restrictive markets where you have very limited methods to communicate with the general public. We're going to talk about the building basics of brand ambassador teams, brand education and awareness best practices. I'm going to dive in a little bit to selecting events and how you pick events to sponsor or attend. There's a lot of events out there in the world to pick from and a lot of noise. So I'm going to help you kind of pare down to the most important. And then I also want to share with you some community and direct customer outreach techniques, some dispensary lounge activation ideas, and then last but not least, how do you communicate with your customer after you've connected with them for the first time? So on that note, let's dive right into the topic of brand ambassadors. Your brand ambassador team is perhaps your most important extension of your company because that is the voice that is out there educating the world about your brand's existence. And it's very important that they do it incredibly well. They have to be able to do it in a concise manner where they get people to understand what they're communicating very quick. They have to be effective in their communication. They have to have the ability to jump in and harness someone's attention, get them to listen for a second, and then inspire them enough to actually take a jump into looking at the product. And so, one of the things that is really important with a brand ambassador team is starting with you, the leader of the company. You have to be your own brand ambassador. And a lot of CEOs and executives or founders are like, "Oh, but I'm not a face person. I get really shy or I'm not good at talking in front of crowds." Well, you have to in this lane. You have to get comfortable. And part of that is how you're going to show up authentically as a brand. Customers cannot get enough of a company that shows up authentically whenever it is coming to market. You're going to be the personal storyteller for your brand. Nobody is going to speak to your product better than you. It's important when you become a business operator in a disruptive industry like cannabis, that you also develop a social media influencer perspective when you're posting. A lot of people will have a private and public page. That's fine. You can do that too. I am a big fan of combining the two because as a founder of a company, especially in an industry that can be a little bit controversial like cannabis, you have to live and breathe your brand. It's incredibly important for you to be in a position where you know that you're the messenger and that people are picking up the words you're using, your mannerisms, your core value system, the way that you speak about your product and about your company is going to become other people's way of speaking about your brand and your company. Um, as a brand ambassador, you never get to take your company hat off, right? You will always be looked at as the owner, the founder of this company. On that note, your appearance, the language that you use, and your public facing behavior, including on social media and in person, really matters because it's a direct reflection of your brand and what you stand for as a company owner. And then last but not least, to be your own brand ambassador, you absolutely must have a perfectly crafted elevator pitch. And what this means is it's a 15 to 30-second pitch that you can, in a snapshot, tell somebody what your company is and what it does. And you have to be able to pare that down in such a way that it's easy to duplicate for other people. So when you, the founder, have really whittled it down to that perfect phrase of what you are trying to do, the rest of your messaging for the rest of your brand ambassador squad just got a lot simpler. I'm going to share with you two different small case studies here. This lovely lady, Sarah Blakely, we've all heard of Spanx out there in the world. She is known to being a champion for female entrepreneurship, and she is the face of Spanx. She is in more advertisement for her product. She goes online constantly and talking about each new product that's been developed and what its purpose is intended for. She is the face of Spanx. When you think about the company Spanx, if you're looking at or even Apple, let's take Steve Jobs for example. Steve Jobs is the epitome of what Apple was founded upon. It was based totally on his core value and leadership style. He was a visionary, he was very charismatic, he was very private. And so a lot of that authenticity from his own personality and the way that he showed up as a leader really is conveyed in the intention behind the creation of the product. And so these people, Sarah Blakely, really strong in women's empowerment, wanting women to feel good in their own skin and their bodies, to feel inspired to be entrepreneurs. She really became the face of a brand that was empowering women. And then Steve Jobs, really as a leader of his company, became the face of being a visionary, being very forward thinking in technology. There's a little bit of Steve Jobs in every Apple phone out there. Let's talk about how you build your brand ambassador team. So this is really important because if it's not you out there conveying the message to your company, your brand ambassadors are doing it. And so what are we looking for when we're looking to hire somebody? We're looking for brand ambassadors that have very important skills. The reliability and relatability is key. Is this person credible? Did they show up to their interviews with you on time? Were they responsive to your emails when you're trying to schedule interviews with them? What did their cover letter or resume look like when it showed up in your inbox? These are all important elements to take into consideration when you're looking for your brand ambassadors. It's also important to pause a moment and do some research on your individuals that you're considering. Do they have a social network online right now? It's important. If you are a brand, you have to have some kind of online presence and engagement with your customer base. And it really helps when your brand ambassador is from the same general area that you're trying to put events on, and they also have a network in that same general area. You want to also find a brand ambassador that's incredibly passionate. A lot of people are weed fans out here, right? I mean, we all have our favorite products, we have our favorite consumption methods, but are we passionate enough about the plant that we're wanting to talk about it frequently with others? And is our body language and energy around the topic infectious? Is it something that you want to talk to this person about more? Yes, great. Probably a great brand ambassador. We're looking also at communication skill level. This goes two ways. It's not just the way that the person is verbally expressing themselves, but also, are they able to read other people's communication skills? Do they adjust their tone based on the body language of the situation? Are they able to identify rapidly what the customer's value system or what they're looking for in order to tailor their pitch to that particular person? And then last but certainly not least, you want to make sure that you're looking for somebody who has a willingness to learn because your company and this industry are going to be constantly evolving. And you're going to need to be able to have somebody that can kind of roll with things as they unfold. And trust me, they unfold at the most inopportune times. One of the special things that I am including in today's presentation is a template that's available for you. It's a job description outline for a brand ambassador. Of course, you can feel free to download this, copy it, make it your own. Everybody's going to have a little bit of a different spec that they're looking for, but this is just a really good bare bones spot to start when posting for job description for brand ambassadors. A couple of different ways that I found worthy of repeating with recruiting methods for really good brand ambassadors is utilizing influencer search tools. So, again, going back to the social media net or social network, it's important that you have a brand ambassador who's going to be talking about your brand online. One of the things that is very popular right now, especially out there in the social media world, is hiring influencers. Sometimes your influencer can be somebody who's a local celebrity. It could be somebody who is just well known in the particular product arena that you are coming into. Maybe it's something like you go and you give a influencer some free product in exchange for them advertising or putting a post online about how great your product is or how much they love what you're doing with your company. One of the best ways for recruiting brand ambassadors is referrals and industry events. Get out there to other people's events and go booth by booth by booth. And really, I hate to encourage poaching. I'm not going to encourage it, but you can see the difference between the quality brand ambassador and the folks that just kind of hide in the back of the booth and don't communicate about the brand to the customer. Really spend some time deep diving what other people are doing that's working and not working, and then adjust your plan accordingly. I have found LinkedIn to be a magnificent spot to post for brand ambassadors. A lot of the time, brand ambassadors are people who are coming into the industry for the first time. They have a wide array of job skill sets from other industries that they've worked at, and they're just getting their feet wet in the industry. They're looking for something that could be, part-time, a learning opportunity, and a brand ambassador role is really great. I actually had one of my very best brand ambassador hires was this wonderful man named John. He actually was a retired VP of a sales company that did point of sale systems. He worked there for like 30 years, was looking for some part-time work, wanted to be a brand ambassador because he was really interested and passionate about cannabis and didn't want a full-time gig, and ended up being one of the best hires I've ever had over the years. I've now had him be a brand ambassador for me at 7 different companies. And he's also worked at one of my delivery services as well. Just a dynamic guy, great personality, easy to teach. And I found him on LinkedIn. And then last but not least, of course, your typical job hiring platforms, really anywhere online, just Google job hiring platforms and post. A lot of the times, these sites will allow you to post your job posts for free. Depending on how many you're posting per month. And then also, a lot of these programs have some kind of social equity discounting for job posts. So make sure to ask for that. There's a couple of legal considerations and compliance considerations to keep tucked in the back of your mind when working with brand ambassadors. A lot of it lies within, do I need to hire the brand ambassador as an employee or as a contractor? And technically, they really should be employees. While a brand ambassador is not necessarily plant touching, the hours upon which that you have them work and you're having them work a such schedule and they have to show up at certain locations at certain times and wear certain things, those are all qualifiers that would require you to have your brand ambassador be an employee. So keep that in mind. There are ways to have brand ambassadors be contractors, but it would be a very limited type of work. It would have to be something where the scope of work just requires them to maybe go do merchandising in a store for a set number of months. So really, when you're thinking about it, a lot of people tend to get confused about employee versus contractor brand ambassadors, and I highly encourage you to get educated on those two differences. But 99% of the time, your brand ambassador is going to be a part-time employee. Another thing that really comes up with brand ambassadors is the idea of whether they can or cannot provide samples at events. And this has everything to do with what type of event you are at. If you are attending a brand or an industry sponsored event that is a licensed event by the DCC in the state of California, or whatever the name of the program is that is outside of California that's governing your licenses, You need to know if that is a event that has a license. If it does, you are allowed to some extent to have consumption and sampling within the parameters of whatever that requirement is. Frequently, though, you will be at events where non infused sampling will be allowed. And so, if you're an edible company or, say, a topical company, a lot of companies will just use CBD or not infuse with cannabis at all, but just give you the idea and the look and the feel and the smell of the product. So it's really important to know what the rules are when you're using your brand ambassadors at different events. Get very good clarity so that you don't get caught up getting in trouble. Okay, let's talk about compensation because this is a hot topic in the brand ambassador world. It's a competitive world out there. Imagine having a part time job and there are dozens of brands in every single store that are constantly looking for really great brand ambassadors, and you happen to be lucky enough to get a couple of them. Okay. If you're not compensating your brand ambassadors at a reasonable rate for their time and energy, you will lose them so fast to a brand that will. And why is this so critical? Well, your brand ambassador is an extension of you, right? And every time you have to retrain a new extension of you, that takes time, it takes energy, and it takes ultimately your resources. So, what I found over the years is that if you could pay a brand ambassador a very workable rate, excuse me, for part-time work, they will stick with you. And you can build upon these schedules. So I usually encourage anywhere from at least $25 to $30 an hour. Um, their jobs are essentially 2 to 3 hours once they're on site at each demo. And you have to also be mindful of drive time, commute time. So if they have to commute for any more than, I believe it's 30 minutes, that is compensatable time. And then make sure you have some kind of great extra incentive program in place for your brand ambassadors. You can do a monthly incentive or a quarterly incentive or something like that. But what you want to do is you always want to keep them feeling like they're a part of something big. And so, great ways to do that is whenever you have product releases or a fresh batch drop, you give a couple of units of that to your brand ambassadors as like an appreciation. And you also give them opportunities like affiliate codes. So let's say there's a company apparel on your website that they can order. Maybe you give them a 50% off code they can go in, or a 80% off code, and they can go in and pick things that they love, that they want to wear, and rep your brand. And then, of course, another really exciting way to compensate or have an extra compensation carrot to dangle for your brand ambassadors for great work is special event access. There's so many cool events that happen throughout the industry. There's everything from private infused dinner moments to industry-wide roller skating nights, and there's just all kinds of fun activations to do. So try to make sure that when you're putting together your compensation plan that you're discussing these sorts of things to incentivize them to stay. So dipping into your brand education and awareness, more so, how do you train your trainer, right? How do you train your brand ambassador? So here is my must. This is like the absolute have to do it for every executive team. You need to create your brand ambassador training deck. Put it in your Google file, put brand ambassador education on it, or at our company, we joke and we call it the company brand Bible. And what it does is it consists of a couple of key elements. One is your script. And yes, it's a script. And I don't mean like miles long paragraphs that you have to memorize. No, this is not a monologue. Okay. What it is a couple of key bullet points that allows everyone in the company to have consistent messaging across whatever platform they're at, whether they're in person, whether they're on Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn or speaking to a journalist. They're going to hit these same consistent message points every single time. And so you need to have a list of 3 to 4 talking points for each SKU. You also want to have your brand story language. So, for example, the company Profit that I worked with the last 2 years, the company has kind of an old world feel to it. And a lot of our language that we use on our website and in our marketing materials has kind of like almost as though some old world king was speaking it. And it has a little bit of a commanding vibe or a commanding presence to it. So you got to figure out what your tone is with your brand story. And then you also want to include elements in your brand Bible, like your color or Pantones, so that your brand ambassadors, when they're out there making fun little things on their own social media pages, they know what colors to use and it stays streamlined. And you also want to include standards and rules for them to properly use company logos and make them sign an acknowledgement that they understand this. So, for example, if you have your company logo, you don't want your brand ambassador to be making content on their own page and like altering your branding in any way. They're welcome to utilize it, but they cannot alter it. So, for example, if your logo has, a heart in the backdrop of it, and that heart has like a significant amount of meaning in your company logo, and you absolutely would never want that change, that needs to be something that's said. And then again, have them sign the acknowledgement. Last, it's also incredibly important that you understand, or that the brand ambassador understands the product knowledge. They're out there educating consumers, and it's dangerous to have a brand ambassador out there speaking about a product that they don't fully understand. I've had some bad experiences where I hired brand ambassadors that worked for other companies, thinking that they knew how to sell the particular product. Because, of course, if I'm hiring you to sell vapes and you just came from a vape company, I'm going to assume you know that. Oh, bad assumption on my part. I absolutely had to go back, reteach everything from the ground up, from how the product was created all the way to the device technology and how it worked. So, check for product knowledge and check for the language that they use, and then make sure that you have a standard set of brand and product facts that they just have rattled off. And these be very simple bullet point things. Okay, must do with brand ambassadors. You want to build your team across your markets. Obviously, a brand ambassador in Sacramento cannot do any kind of activations in LA on a consistent basis. So make sure that you're thinking about geographically when you're launching in different dispensaries. Where are you going to concentrate your energies for sales? And then, therefore, follow that up with brand ambassadors that live in those general areas. It's important to create a synergy between your brand ambassadors no matter where they are, whether your brand is just in Northern California and Southern California, or if you have brand ambassadors that are now with your brand in New York or New Jersey or Florida. Wherever your brand starts to pop up, it's important to have a opportunity to bring everyone together so that all your team cheerleaders really can get inspired with each other and have moments to interact and have social time with each other and hear what's happening in each other's markets. And then learn from each other, because there's a lot of unique opportunities to learn from people in different situations. It's always fun to get your group of brand ambassadors across the state on the phone and let them tell customer stories together. It's really great camaraderie, and sometimes you get some really funny stuff. And then last, I just want to touch one more time on the fact that the pay rate really does matter. It is a competitive market for a great brand ambassador. And trust me, if you get lucky enough to hire one, people were going to be coming after that brand ambassador. I get comments all the time on how great my brand ambassadors are. And the first thing I say back to somebody after they compliment my brand ambassadors, I say, thank you. Please make sure you don't offer them a job. Because you want to make sure that you keep that person, right? If they're really that great, do whatever you can to keep them, because they are your voice out there in the world. On that note, I did put a brand ambassador checklist for demos. It's also an attached document. And it's just a brand ambassador checklist, a supply checklist that they would have, things that they should do before they show up to the event, elements that what you want them to do while they're at the event, and then post event follow up. Let's talk a little bit about the tools that a brand ambassador needs to have. Number one, branded apparel. Brand your brand ambassador. They should have a hat or two, shirts or 10, Pants, sweats, socks, they should be dripping in your brand as fast as you can. Why? Because the more you have your label on something, the more other people want it. Whether you can give it to the customer or not, that doesn't matter. They're going to conversate with the brand ambassador if you've got a really creative way of expressing your brand on their attire. It's also really important to have a brand kit. And this is a kit that goes mobile with your brand ambassador no matter where they're at. It usually consists of like a 4-foot table, a branded tablecloth, some signage, product displays, and definitely you want to have talk point cards. These are like, little postcards that you would have that would talk a little bit about the different products that you've got on the menu. And then perhaps on the other side, your brand story. It's also important to have something to give away. You always want to put something with your brand logo in a customer's hand, no matter if they're buying your product or not. And simple things like this are like stickers or maybe like a little air freshener or something like that, something really inexpensive that you can hand over that has some brand identity on it. And that person is going to now walk away up to the buying counter with something that has your logo on it. It's a really good way to make sure that somebody is or that your brand is constantly being dripped on the customers as they're walking through the store. And then the other thing is you want to make sure that your brand ambassadors are equipped and ready for interactive training sessions with staff. Sometimes it's slow in dispensaries. And it's important that your brand ambassador effectively fills that time instead of standing behind the table thumbing through their own phone or, sitting there and being quiet waiting for the next customer. You want them to interact with the brands or the dispensary staff. So that's everybody from the security guard down to the cash register guy. You want to make sure that every person in that store knows the core values, the branded script that you've already got down pat, that elevator pitch, right? And then you also want to make sure that they walk away with something with your branding on it. So a sticker, a little chapstick, whatever your company is giving away. The other day, I got a really cute pair of blue cookies sunglasses that had like a rainbow sheen on them at the state fair. Perfect giveaway. All right. So, differentiating between brand awareness education and how that equals sales conversion. This is where your sales team and your marketing team collide. And this always happens underneath your brand ambassador department. Your brand ambassador's job is to make sure that the customers know you exist. And then it's their job to make sure that the store personnel and the customers get educated on the product. And once you have a brand awareness in the store and the customer feels educated on what it does and how it works, there's your sale. Your brand ambassador is going to be your biggest converter because your sales representative is not necessarily going to be in the store doing this for you. And it's important to do your best to encourage your brand ambassadors to track sales whenever possible. There is the easiest way to do it, which is offering some kind of an incentive during your demos. Every single time somebody makes a purchase, you say, "Come back here after you make your purchase. I have a gift for you." Don't tell them what it is. It could be something super silly, but you want to give them something in exchange for making that purchase. And then you just keep a little tally mark. And your brand ambassador should be able to tell you at the end of the demo roughly how much happened in the way of sales. All right, so let's talk about using your brand ambassadors and selecting events to attend slash sponsor. There is nothing that this industry does better than throw all kinds of big events that you could spend your money on, and a lot of it is not smart. So let's talk about what factors you need to evaluate because when you're bringing your brand ambassador team, you need them to be effective. And so, looking at every single event, what is your primary goal when you're looking at every single one of these events? What is the audience size? How many attendees? What type of audience is it? Is it industry audience? Are you marketing to customers out there in the world who are going to be going into dispensaries to buy your product? Or are you going to be marketing to your peers? Is this a business to business event? Or is this a business to consumer event? And how does that align with your company's target goal at that moment? Another factor to take into consideration is media presence. Are you going to get any media ROI out of this? And when I say that, it could be something like um, each event that you're signing up to participate in an event, and you're going to have a booth, and depending upon the level of sponsorship of your booth, you may get a commercial added to social media. You may get 3 logo posts on banners throughout the activation. Maybe you're going to get your logo on a tote bag that's being given to every single attendee. What does that look like? And then also looking from a sponsor alignment perspective, is the event that you're going to participate in alignment with your brand philosophy? For example, um, I have an outdoor farm that I've been working with, and they really wanted to be able to get more to customer activating going on. And this is an outdoor farm. They really specialize in organic farming practices. They go above and beyond to really just put so much love into the land and the harvesting of this plant. And so I encourage them actually to sign up for a booth space at a few local farmers markets. And I know you guys are probably all going, wait, you can't sell cannabis at farmers markets. You're right. But it's a really good idea for them because the environment that's out there is a organic farmers market, and they don't have to have cannabis right there on site. What they have to have is beautiful pictures and advertisement that will draw people in for a conversation about their farm. And then what you have is a participating delivery service that has a QR code on the table right there that you can scan, put the order in online, and have it brought to them later or even wherever you're at. But it's a really, really nice way to evaluate what your company core values are and figuring out how you want to spend your money for marketing. Your ROI is absolutely critical. And so one of the things that I talk about is, it's hard to determine what your ROI is going to be at each event. What you really need to look at is growth in sales after the event for about 3 to 4 months. And then you look and evaluate whether or not there was any long-term gain. There's a really great event that happens twice a year in California, and then is coming to New York later this fall, called Hall of Flowers. That's what's on this photo here. And, some people spend up to $100,000 on a booth space at Hall of Flowers. I wouldn't ever encourage a small new brand to do something like that. But this is a business to business event, and it is a really great opportunity to get your brand out in front of people if you're just trying to break the ice and meet new buyers. Could be a really good use of funding. All right, so a couple of different strategies for presence at events. You don't always have to go big and do a big booth. Don't always have to do that. Sometimes you just attend as a guest, because sometimes just being there is just as good as having a booth space. Being mobile, feet on the ground, being able to move from booth to booth and meet people at your own leisure and target specific brands that you want to go ahead and take a look at is equally as powerful as having a booth space there, in my opinion. Um, and it really just depends, like, to what level you want to be involved. One of the really great ways to get into industry events and save costs is to apply for a speaking opportunity. There's all kinds of different things that people need speakers for. They need more than just speakers. They need entertainers. They need all kinds of people to participate to make their event unique and special. And so it's important to look into the type of event and see if there's any way that you can help offer a cost savings to them in order to get yourself out there. And then do your own guerrilla marketing at these events. When you show up to industry events, make sure you always have tons of brand stickers in your pocket or samples in your bag, because this is how you can start to get your own name out without having to spend a lot of extra money. And you get to cherry pick who you're approaching. I talked a little bit ago, a second ago about different strategies on keeping your costs down, but let's dive a little bit deeper. So, we all need to save money on our marketing budget, right? And so it's time to get really creative. No more are we just randomly spending money just to spend it on marketing. Every dollar has to count. And so it's important to reach out to these event organizers in advance of attending, not like a week in advance, but a month or two in advance, and offer some sort of assistance. Perhaps you can do some videography or social media content grabbing for them and be a media partner. Perhaps you can offer to help sell tickets and or recruit sponsors for these particular events in exchange for free tickets, maybe a free booth space, maybe an interview or presenter opportunity. But these are just a couple of different ideas on how you can attend these sorts of events and perhaps lower your own overhead and expense to do so. And then last but certainly not least, this is highly underutilized. Almost every program, every event, every vendor, like literally anybody offers some sort of social equity discounting. Don't hesitate to ask. I can't begin to tell you how many brands I worked with over the years that, I mean, we've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars just by asking if they have a social equity discount. Okay, so let's talk about event strategy. So, pre event, during, and post event content strategy must be planned. Your marketing team never should be flying by the seat of their pants, especially when it comes to content creation. I always say that if it wasn't on your social media, it didn't happen. And so it's important that you get a pre-planned shot list that you want your brand ambassadors to grab while at the event and or photographer. Something like you want to have a list of, a group of your team walking into the building, and then you want to have a shot of a customer holding your product, smiling. Maybe you want to have a video product review done by somebody who's walked by and loved your product. Whatever that case is, you want to have a list so that at the end of the event or even during the event, you're able to share all of this really great content that just nails every single element that you came to nail at your event. And then the other thing and this is kind of like a little strategy, like secret, when you're grabbing your content at this year's events, keep next year's event in mind. Because as the new event rolls or approaches for the following year, you can help with using your old content from last year to begin creating buzz about this year's event, and there you just got a really nice little like seed to plant with the event company for next year's event, right? You say, hey, listen, I want to help you with all the pre-promoting event with getting ready. I got some really great content. I'm going to go ahead and post all of these different things. Can I please get some free tickets, or can I get a discount on my booth or whatever? Just always offer something in exchange. And most of these companies are very happy to offer some kind of discount to help you win as well. Oops. Let's see. How am I doing on time here? 12:45 almost. All right. Let's talk a little bit about some events and the different levels of ROI. So, right now, it's kind of kismet. The California State Fair, for the fourth year in a row, is hosting the Cannabis exhibit. And on Saturday, they had the California Cannabis Award Show at the State Fair. Really fun event. Right now, what's happening is in true cannabis industry form, we are all being taxed at the highest possible dollars to have these booth spaces. And a lot of brands are paying $5,000 to $10,000 to have a booth space for just a couple of days. The fair is a 17-day long event, and they get the space for 3 of those days for a minimum price of $5,000. They do get to sell 1 to 2 of their product SKUs at the local dispensary on site at the fair, which is kind of cool. Um, but there's also a lot of other competing brands and a lot of competing products. And so to pay the $5,000, plus you have to sell your product to the retailer, which is Embark for this event. And Embark then marks the product up to their normal price point and then sells it. And so now you are making the money at the fair, but you also had to pay $5,000 to be there. And so I would say that this is kind of a medium ROI event. You're getting some great brand exposure, you're getting some brand sponsorship or some brand sales going. So you're making a little bit of your money back, but it's not probably going to be super likely that you're going to make your $5,000 plus your cost of staff and parking and food for those days and lodging and all of that. I would say it's a medium ROI. The way that you could maximize your ROI out of a state fair event is by getting contact information for customers. So having something fun at the booth and engaging that makes them want to give up their contact information, that increases your ROI quite significantly. Let's talk a little bit about a low ROI event. In my opinion, I've done a number of different music festivals with my brands over the couple of years now. And right now, music festivals are asking for, $10 to $20,000 just for the booth space. That doesn't count for what you make your booth look like, the ambiance of the booth, the staffing, lodging, travel expenses, all of that. Doesn't include any of that. Just the piece of land that you get to put your shop up on. And while you do get a lot of foot traffic passing by your booth, usually at events now, unless you can get a lone pop-up stand booth at an event and can sell your product, it's typically a fairly low ROI. In the city of San Francisco, there's a concert put on every year called Outside Lands. Really fun music festivals in Golden Gate Park. There's multiple stages, tons of attendees. They have a cannabis section there, and you can go into this area and you can buy your product from these different locations. But you can't consume it outside of that area. When you buy it in this space, you're supposed to keep it in this space or keep it packaged up. And quite frankly, the brands pay a significant amount of money to be there, and they don't really make the money back on the expense. So it's definitely something with like a low to medium ROI. It really just depends on what the goal is or the objective is for your company at that particular event. And then for me, I love smaller activations that have a really high ROI turn up that cost nothing. I'm really into looking for opportunities for me to get my product in front of somebody at like the lowest base price ever. And one of the things that I love doing is partnering with delivery services and doing kind of pop-ups at different locations. So, for example, I used a farmer's market analogy earlier. Yes, you can't sell directly at the farmer's market. You can't do the transaction right there, but you can partner with a delivery service and be at an event like this that costs maybe like 30 to 50 bucks for you to pop up your booth. And if you make one sale at that event, you just made your money back, right? And then on top of that, you should be building a customer base right in that local community. If you are a brand that's really trying to like submerge into a certain area, a certain region, you got to get grassroots. You have to get right in front of these customers and think about where your customer shops, where they go, what are their hobbies, and start spending your pop up time in the environments where your customer naturally congregates. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about community and direct customer outreach. So that's kind of a perfect segue into what I was saying. Like, where does your customer hang out? This is a key question that your marketing department should be asking itself because that's where you need to be targeting market efforts. I mean, yes, technically customers all go to the dispensary. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, does your customer come across you in their natural habitat? So if your company is let's see, if your company is a company that's marketing to golfers, okay, let's say that you have like this great vape line and it has some cool little like technology that, I don't know, does something cool that golfers like. And you're marketing this product, you're probably going to start popping up at driving ranges or at stores that sell golf sporting equipment, or perhaps putting on little mixers where you have a putting green or something of that nature in front of your booth. That's naturally going to engage people who are interested in that sort of element. When you put up your booths at these fairs, you also want to make sure that your booth is engaging. You want to make it easy for the customer to understand what you're offering and what you're doing. You want to make it enticing for them to come see you. There was a booth that I worked with not too long ago that had, or a company I worked with not too long ago that had these really creative infused marshmallows, like handcrafted infused marshmallows. And so we were out at a community fair event, and what we were offering was hot cocoa with a CBD marshmallow. And then we gave them a little card that says you can order these from this delivery service, and they had a little discount code on it. So people would scan that QR code and order the marshmallows and have them delivered to them. Um, you also want to make sure that when you have your booth space, you have really high energy. Think about when you're out at a community fair and what makes you comfortable approaching a booth. It's usually because there's something fun and engaging going on over there. If you have a bunch of people standing around your booth, not making eye contact and not speaking and not smiling, chances are customers are not going to engage with you. And get creative with your local pop-ups. There's a lot of opportunity at events that you wouldn't even think about. The state fair is a unique opportunity, but you don't have to wait until your state fair rolls around. You can participate in pretty much any kind of event. It's just not always going to be a sellable event. So definitely pay attention to sponsorship opportunities on every single level, and get involved with local charities and communities, because I'm telling you, and oh, chambers of commerce. My goodness, I can't begin to tell you how much chambers of commerce are so supportive of the cannabis industry as a whole. And 9 times out of 10, the people who are participating in that chamber will become your customer. All right, let's talk about how do you stay connected to your customer after you meet them. So there's a lot of really great loyalty programs out there. One of my favorite things to do with a loyalty program is private events, customer appreciation events. There's all kinds of ways to do this, but hosting special customer education events, you can do this when you have a new product dropping, or let's say that you're doing R&D and you really want to figure out, like, what is the customer's favorite whatever edible flavor or something like that. It gives you opportunities to get in front of your customer, get them samples, do merch giveaways, and then most importantly, getting customer feedback, right? Because if your product it goes out into the world and it's not hitting the world the way that you intended it to, how else are you going to know if your loyal customer base isn't telling you, and telling you fast? You don't want to find out way after the fact that something was really wrong with your products. All right, let's talk a little bit about your call to action and post-event follow-up, because now you've gone out, your brand ambassadors have gone into the stores, they've met with customers, you've gone to events, you've met with business to business opportunities and business to customer opportunities. You've collected their emails, or you have got them to follow you on social media. What now? So it's important to follow up quickly. You want to create a sense of urgency with clear next steps to maintain the customer's interest and assist in the rule of three. So, for those of you that might not know what rule of three is, the rule of three in marketing is the concept that a customer becomes 75% more inclined to purchase your product if they have come across your product in at least three other circumstances before they're faced with the buying choice. And so that could be something as simple as they saw a social media post about your brand in the morning. And then later that afternoon, they happen to be scrolling through Weed Maps and they're looking for what product that they're trying to find. And they realize that, oh, There's that product that I just saw on my social media post. Oh, okay. And then as they're walking into their local dispensary, there might be a sign in the lobby that also has your branding. Boom. Now you just hit them one, two, three. They're going to walk up to that counter and subconsciously, they've got your brand in their mind. And so creating that sense of urgency with next clear steps to your customer, something like an email that says, "Hey, it was so wonderful to meet you at, our community fair, whatever it was that you were at. Here is a 20% off coupon at the dispensary in Sacramento that you can go and get a product with a discount on us." It's also important to get an email drip campaign or a text messaging thread campaign going. And then obviously, your social media targeting. When you're creating posts, you want to be really mindful about the customer that you're marketing to. You don't want to be super general with all of your posts because your target customer wants to be spoken to. And if they feel like you're just talking to everybody, it's going to become white noise for them. But if they feel like you're really speaking to them and coming for them, it's going to feel like a relationship over time. There's going to be a loyalty that they'll have to you. All right. And then last, let's see here. I think I'm almost at the end of my show. Oh no, yeah. I gotta go a little faster. So brand ambassador specific calls to actions. Some of the things that are really important that they need to be doing. You want them to be sharing any kind of like promotional codes or discounts. You want them to be tagging everybody in stories. So I have a list of all of the different handles that our brand ambassadors are supposed to tag on every single post that they do. And then you want to also make sure that when you have events going on, that your brand ambassadors are doing a call to action to their audience so that they can increase attendance. And this is the tail end of the presentation, but I want to talk to you about activating in dispensary lounges. We all hear about the lounge environment, and there is no better environment that I think a brand can jump into than a lounge activation inside of a dispensary where your product is accessible. Because now you get the chance to be in front of that customer when they try it. You get the feedback, you get to give them the hype, you get to show them where it's at, and you can make it really fun. A lot of people don't really understand how to activate properly in a dispensary that has a consumption lounge. It's important to have plenty of samples. You want to do fun things that are engaging. You want to invite your customer on a special invitation via email. You want to ask for an RSVP. Do fun things like movie nights or create an annual or semi-annual customer appreciation event with that store that you do all the time so that every year or every 6 months, the customers are always looking forward to it and they know it's coming. You also want to make sure that when you're in stores and in the lounge activations that you are integrating your brand ambassadors as much as possible. They have to have specific targeted goals. If you're doing a store takeover and you have, say, a welcome booth at the front door, and then you have a secondary brand ambassador inside that's giving away stickers or, tchotchkes, and then you have a third brand ambassador whose job is to make sure that customers are picking up the product and putting it in their hand for a moment. You have to make sure that you're specifically outlining what their job is and how long they're going to do it. And then if you're going to rotate them, just really be specific in how you want to purposefully use your brand ambassadors at your activations. And then engagement matters, right? So when you're doing special tastings or sampling with your customers, the brand ambassador really has the opportunity to put the product in the customer's hand, smell it, look at it, feel it, consume it, experience it. This is all a part of a buying process, right? And so your brand ambassador really needs to be able to take the consumption of that product and convert it into a sale. And then again, I talked earlier a little bit more about the tracking of the ROI, and the lounge partnership is such a great way to do it. The second that you get a customer to taste the product, we just did a partnership a couple of weeks back with the Volcano, and we were a flower sponsor for their Volcano activation. We ended up selling almost 32 jars of flower that night just by being a featured partner. The event cost us nothing. It cost us 4 jars of flour to share in the Volcano. at a 2-hour activation, and we sold a lot of our product that night. So, just really thinking about the opportunity to directly impact your sales with the use of your brand ambassador, and then how you're tracking the ROI from that experience. And then also, the other thing to do when you're doing a lounge activation is go and ask the store how many units were sold during this event, and then track the sales for the next couple of weeks at that particular store and see if you see any increase. Whew. It's exactly 1 o'clock. I just talked a lot. Well, I hope that you guys learned a little bit something here today. The brand ambassador program, it can be very in depth. It's definitely an essential. Do not skimp on a brand ambassador team. Make sure that you're using your opportunity for brand education and awareness, and then getting out there and utilizing those brand ambassadors for everything customer facing, events, lounge experiences. And don't hesitate to use those brand ambassadors to help get the word out to the general public in their own um, little network. And I hope that I gave you guys something to learn about today.
This webinar recording will soon be available on DCR's website, cannabis.lacity.org. That's also where you will find coaching and other services. So please look into that, as well as the LMS. All of that is in the chat too. And if you have any questions on accessing your LMS account, you can go ahead and email dcr.sep@lacity.org. You can still get a professional business coach. This is a consultant dedicated to helping your business succeed. And I want to remind you to mark it on your calendar. The next webinar is July 24th, 2025, and that will be the Los Angeles Consumption Lounge update with Courtney Lang. So make sure that you are subscribing to the LA newsletter on all of these issues. It has super helpful links and updates on what's coming next each and every month. Mandy, I always learn so much from you, and you give me so many ideas for my own business. So I definitely appreciate you today and sharing your wisdom and experience with us and the LA social equity entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I put your contact information in the chat along with other important links. And with that, I am Dale Sky Jones with Oaksterdam University. We are all grateful for your time and attention. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please make it a wonderful rest of your day and an even better week.